Here we have the final preparation for the boat to be hauled. You can see the forestays taken completely off and tied off either side of the drum so it's not going to move around on us. A temporary forestay from the jib halyard running all the way to the top of the mast is in place. And the staysail wire is loosened right up and pulled backwards to get it sloping even further back, but still remaining tight. And the spinnaker halyard's in place.
Are you talking to me?
And tightened up to create another forestay when we take the boat out. The jib stay has to be taken, the jib halyard rather, has to be taken off completely. Here you can see how much the forestay is curved inwards, and with this tied backwards you're creating a temporary stay that's way back out of the way. We should have more than enough clearance for everything here. When we get lifted and the T-bar on that machine will run into that area there, we have to make sure it stays clear. Here you can see how much the forestay is curved inwards, and with this tied backwards you're creating a temporary stay that's way back out of the way. We should have more than enough clearance for everything here. When we get lifted and the T-bar on that machine will run into that area there, we have to make sure it stays clear. So here's the turnbuckle finally done up. Notice not a lot of thread left in here. Why are we stopping there? The unit seems to be quite snug, and we'll travel over to the mast and have a look at the mast head to see how straight it is. And the final important point to remember: in order to tighten this turnbuckle, you turn it counterclockwise. To loosen it, you go clockwise. And last but not least, one of the most important points of this whole thing, this needs to be rotated counterclockwise to tighten it. Counterclockwise to get it tight, and you need to go clockwise to undo it. It'll save you a lot of time and effort. Okay, you can see now this is able to get the needle nose pliers in there, and you can make it really a decent turn here now. You get quite a good little turn there. Now we're ready to repeat the 3 steps. Number 1, tap on here with an oak piece to spin that around. Number 2, the claw hammer in through this area. Go in and avoid this. Crank it over. Finally, you're back to your 3rd step, your needle nose pliers. Around and round it goes. Okay, here's a correction. That stick was only able to rotate that turnbuckle to that position. You still can't get the needle nose pliers in there, so you use the claw of a hammer. In the middle part here, where there's that support system, you go in there and simply turn the turnbuckle some more. You can see now we're getting a good angle, and we're ready for the pliers again. It's a laborious process, but at least it's working. You can see here how far that stick can turn that turnbuckle. It's now almost into a position where your needle nose should be able to now grab another turn. Having tapped on the end of this oak stick, you can see the turnbuckle now has been turned a little bit further over. You're now in a position to possibly get another bit more with your needle nose plier. Here's a problem once you're trying to tighten up this turnbuckle in here. These two arms interfere with you being able to manipulate this turnbuckle and get it tight enough. In order to do that, a person needs to use needle nose pliers and insert it into that jaw area here. Now that'll prevent that from turning. Secondly, you have to use a combination. You may be able to come up with something better, but the use of needle nose pliers on this side to be able to turn this over, but now you can see you're limited as to not being able to get another bite to keep turning. By placing an oak piece onto this outer edge here and tapping on it with a hammer, you can slowly rotate this some more. And here's the three tools that I use to tighten that up. You may be able to come up with a special tool that would do it better, but the oak stick being tapped on with a hammer to rotate it at least halfway around, using the claw of the hammer to nudge it just a little bit further over, and then finally you can get the needle nose pliers in there and make a good progress in turning it. Here's an important point that should be outlined. When you disconnect this unit, taking this bolt out, make sure that you don't take the bolt all the way out, otherwise this turnbuckle will want to slide up inside the furler unit itself. You'll have a heck of a time trying to get the two back together again to bolt them. So what you should do is undo this, take the nut off, back it off, but leave a small amount of this bolt holding both this unit and this jaw together. There's more than enough play over here, you can see, so that the unit could be slid that way, and more than what you would think of the bolt left in can be there, not interfering with anything. This plate right here is quite a bit thinner than the size of the jaw. So carefully remove the bolt, leaving it inserted through both this outer plate and the jaw, and your life will be simple. If it does escape on you, it's lots of fun to try to play with this turnbuckle and get it down and get the bolt back through both holes. So save yourself some grief. Be very careful when you try to disconnect that. For the winter time, all the rope on the drum of the furler should be taken inside and stored. You don't want to get it weathered all winter long. To reinstall it, you can see the leads come up from the port side and wind clockwise onto the drum.
Okay.
So wind it all up clockwise, and then you're ready for the furler. It goes clockwise and not counterclockwise because the protective cover on the jib is on the starboard side. That needs to be on the last part of the sail to be wound around. So once again, put it on the port side, wind the rope counterclockwise, and you'll be all set to go. Here's the boat being prepared to take it out of the water. Presently the forestay, the pins have been pulled on it, and that will have to be loosened and completely taken off. So the furling unit will then be loose and much further back. If the boat is lifted with that forestay in place, it'll run into the crossbars on that machine they move you with. Even the inner stay, you can see we have a rope tied on it. That's going to be loosened some more yet. So it's probably going to be back more in this range. And this is the spinnaker halyard, and that's giving some temporary support all the way to the very top of the mast. So what you'll effectively have here is the spinnaker halyard and the staysail halyard. When we loosen it some more and bring it back this way, we'll have temporary stays further in to support the top of the mast from going backwards, because the forestay is going to be completely removed. Simply run those two ropes back to the mast, put them on a winch, get them fairly tight. Make sure the spinnaker halyard is really tight as well. And these ropes effectively then change the angle at which the top of the mast is being supported. And there's no danger then of the mast wanting to go backwards. Here we have the final preparation for the boat to be hauled. You can see the forestays taken completely off and tied off either side of the drum, so it's not going to move around on us. A temporary forestay from the jib halyard running all the way to the top of the mast is in place. And the staysail wire is loosened right up and pulled backwards to get it sloping even further back, but still remaining tight. And the spinnaker halyard's in place.
Are you talking to me?
And tightened up to create another forestay when we take the boat out. The jib stay has to be taken, jib halyard rather, has to be taken off completely. Here you can see how much the forestay is curved inwards, and with this tied backwards, you're creating a temporary stay that's way back out of the way. We should have more than enough clearance for everything here. When we get lifted and the T-bar on that machine will run into that area there, we have to make sure it stays clear. Note the position of where the forestay is and the padding underneath it so we don't wreck our decking.